Welcome, welcome, welcome. Fun stream day. Big stream today.
There is a $50,000 tournament.
We are competing in an Omega Strikers tournament.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Strikers Blastoise Invitational. We have 24 of your favorite content creators. So let's take a look at our first matchups going into today.
Send the core over to them and then alley-oop it into the opponent's goal and hit that perfect angle. The dopamine rush, man, it's so good.
I mean, talk about the dopamine rush, just getting an elimination on the enemy goalie. 1 point away from taking this one home. But already, look at that. The ranged shots coming through from Fuslie and Katamina. Bob, though, doing good work to try and deflect the core back over towards Hafu. A last-second save, and all the way down. Pool Shark deflects it, but not a second. It's a triple for Dog.
It's the season finale of the North American Strikers League as we roll out the red carpet for our final 3 teams.
Think at the wall and just hope that it'll work.
Yeah, for sure. Something that nice shot there from Bells to reinforce that one with the primary. It's a bit off the corner though. 3Z maybe another chance. Shapeshifting's primary able to catch it and keep the offense going with a whiplash setup. 3Z, an excellent angle into the bottom corner.
Also, here's a chance for Bun Bun to go ahead as they get 2 KOs. Liari strikes it out of the slime, and the first set of this grand finals is going to Bun Bun Bonanza. Here, that's going to be a huge swing, and now all 3 members of Hungry Like Nephew active in the offense. The flip invested, and that's 2 quick points.
Looking for the second barrier, but Liari dies again while dashing forward, and now Bells has all the control in the world. Kai Noob's in there.
A second KO found by Bells, and he gets the strike as well. 3-1 in this map, 2-0 in the series, and Hungry Like Nephew are your Nassau Season 6 champions.
The attempts that any other player would have easily let through. This might be Barcode's best round in the entire tournament.
And he's still keeping it out, and he's able to eliminate Leo Leon, somehow knocking him into the goal.
This could be the final point right here, and there it is! Bells taking out, you already lose, pushing it in, the final tournament point.
And now they're trying to take home the trophy. Snake into the bottom corner, you already lose, into the bottom top corner. Energy first into the score.
And that's the series.
Take the series, and my voice is gone.
The crowd chanting 3rd seed.
The whiplash from 3Z Breezy trying to get it up to the top, but it's not going to go through just yet. The arrow comes out, the dash comes right out of the way, and Grimella puts it in. Dubu Strikers are your for the crown champions in a 5-game series bracket reset. They brought it back from the brink. They had the losers bracket run, but they have done it. Congratulations.
Omega Strikers was once a game that peaked at over 10,000 concurrent players, had all the biggest Twitch and YouTube content creators playing it, pushing their large audiences to watch and enjoy the game, and a huge thriving community. But now, it's thought to be dead. However, below the surface of a game now peaking at only 300 monthly players, there's actually a thriving competitive esports scene with some of the most passionate players you'll see in any community. What caused the meteoric surge in popularity? What happened to the game that was once beloved by so many? And why is its heart still pumping all these years later? We have gathered some of the most notable and prolific names in Omega Strikers to answer some questions on all of our minds.
Okay, hi, I'm Josh.
What's up?
you ain't got nothing else, bro? Nothing else?
I play the air hockey game, which is why I'm here. These guys pretend to play the air hockey game, but whenever I tell them to queue up, they don't. So
That's fake. That's fake.
Yeah, that's fake.
I have at least a 50% queue up rate, alright?
Okay, yeah, David's 0%.
That's literally false, bro.
I tell like how to queue up, and he just responds with his SpongeBob.
That was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Yes. Josh is Grimella. He is pretty up there in the scene from what I understand, but you just started recently, if I'm recalling correctly.
No, that is not true at all.
Not really? Then when did you start playing the game?
I started playing in February of 2022.
Jesus.
Which was the closed pre-alpha test.
Me when I know my facts.
Yeah, you really do. You really came in with facts.
I did.
I started playing back then. This pre-alpha test from February of 2022 was mainly targeted at collegiate audiences. And so they gave keys to play the game, like Steam keys, to esports teams at universities in, I'm assuming, the US and Canada. And so the University of Hawaii, their esports team gets keys. My friend is like, yo, you got to play this game. It's super fun. I'm like, okay. I was like, yeah, I'm down. I'll play this game with you. And so he gets me a key because they were just handing them out. And he gets my roommate, 3Z Breezy, a key, who would be sitting here if he was awake. And then my other roommate at the time, all three of us get keys and we start playing. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. This game's cool. And I liked Estelle, sort of because she was a super ranged character, and I played ADC in League, so I liked playing at range. Yeah. So I played Estelle goalie because you could only queue up if you had a goalie and a forward player, and one of us had to be the goalie. And I guess I was more amenable to that than he was. And then the next day, 3Z joined. 3Z played Drakkar. I don't know if I'm actually still under an NDA. I can leak what Drakkar's name was back then.
I have no idea.
But yeah, so that was when I first started playing. Was way back then, and then there was an open beta. Can you hear the cat or no?
I do not hear the cat.
Oh, I might have to turn my gain up on this mic. The cat's loud right now. There was an open beta in August.
Oh, there
so
it is.
between now you can hear it. Between February and August, I just remembered the game, thought it was cool, followed it on Twitter or whatever, and then saw the announcements on Twitter hey, we're having an open beta. And I'd heard at the time that there were still closed play tests for smaller groups of players in between then, so the top of the ladder was still getting practice and getting better. And I obviously wasn't, so I joined the open beta in August, and it was a weekend. It was just a 2 or 3 day thing. I got to see the new characters and stuff, and I got to play again. And I was like, yeah, this game is still fun. I'm still enjoying it. But I still really enjoyed the game and the community, and so I started playing on the day it came out.
So you definitely touched on why you got into it, and I'm assuming you're sticking around because you just have this major passion for the game, and you wanted to make a name for yourself. That's kind of what we're getting at there.
Yeah.
So how would you sell the game to someone today that doesn't play?
So the game, if someone didn't play, I would just say that it's a really simple game. Obviously, I have very complicated views on the game because I play against other people who are very good. But it's really quite a simple game, and it's a pretty fun party game. There's, in my opinion, a pretty good amount of visual clarity most of the time. The art direction of the game is really good, and there's a lot of really satisfying moments in the game. There are so many fundamental qualities that make it just an enjoyable experience that I really think if people actually picked it up and played it, especially the launch product, what it is nowadays, they would find themselves really enjoying it. It's sort of it's a little like ARAM. That's kind of how I would pitch it. It's kind of like ARAM. If you play League, a lot of people like League because of there's a lot of intricacy to it. There's a lot of tactical thinking. You're really rewarded for being intelligent. You don't have to have the god gamer hands to succeed, but at the same time, that's really daunting. There's such a huge knowledge disparity. If you just start out playing League, you have to find out what a billion champions' different abilities do. There's just so much going on that can be really foreboding. And so a lot of people just like playing ARAM.
Yep.
A lot of casual League players, they enjoy playing ARAM because they just go in, they just get a champion, and then they just beat people up. And I've always thought of OS as like, it's like League in a lot of ways, but it's only like the team fighting part, where there's very little time to actually critically think about your actions. You just need to make sure that you're making split-second correct decisions instead of like long-form, thought-out decisions. You need to do micro-positioning correctly, which is important in Omega Strikers, as opposed to just like positioning yourself on a map. And it's also team fights end up being a lot about like direct, smaller 1v1 interactions between like specific champions, unless there's some like wombo combo or whatever. But like if I'm an ADC, I've got to hit the tank, and I don't worry about the other people.
But if you're the assassin, you gotta dive. But you get up by the support, you know.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like roles you have to play, and Omega Strike is just extremely similar to that on a smaller scale because it's 3v3, but it is extremely similar, and it's just like the team fighting of League. Like you don't have the time to actually make smart decisions. You just need to learn how to make quick decisions that are the smart decisions, and that's kind of what ARAM is. ARAM's a little slower paced sometimes.
Yeah.
But it is really all about just like throwing yourself at people and them throwing themselves at you. And you get to enjoy beating people up and getting beat up. And OS is kind of like that, where you just throw yourself at the ball and at the enemies until somebody scores. And I think because ARAM is such a consistent, large, casual player base, I really don't think it's unrealistic that OS could do the same thing. And then if you are interested in the competitive scene, it's not as competitively unviable as like competitive ARAM would be, because competitive ARAM could really suck. Yeah, it's fun in smaller doses, but I don't think it would make for a long-term healthy competitive game. But OS, I think, has proven itself to actually be a really good and healthy long-term competitive game. The scene is like everything else about Omega Strikers is shrinking except for its competitive scene.
Right. I think the one stable part.
It's been extremely steadfast. And so I think it's a really good game for both audiences, casual and competitive, that I think if people just tried it, they would enjoy it. They would find themselves having fun. They would say, wow, I thought this game sucked because they played in beta and it sucked in beta. There's quite a few players that played in beta that are still around today that hated it in beta and then came back on launch and really enjoyed the improvements from launch and like are still around super involved nowadays because they realized that the changes they made were really good. And so yeah, that's I think how I would sell the game.
You mentioned that you think obviously, you know, if people were to come and like just try the game, just like in general, that they would like it and they would maybe stick around. But I guess the question I have to that would be, you know, obviously at the launch of the game, and I think at the launch of the open beta as well, they had like, you know, the creator versus event, which is obviously something huge that marked for the game. And, you know, obviously they had like streamers, YouTubers making videos, everyone's like streaming the game every day. They had the whole tournament even with creators, and some of the top level players come in to, like, you know, kind of showcase the game. And obviously as a result of that, people played the game, you know, and they had a good time, they enjoyed it. But you had mentioned before as well that within 2-3 weeks they were gone. What do you think that is?
So I think the big thing is that they had difficulty not making the game feel samey, which is like the big advantage that I think League has. You know, because I think comparing the two games is a pretty natural comparison. In League, there actually is just so much going on and there's so many options, and the games being longer kind of helps because it adds more variety to every game as well. Whereas in OS, it's super easy to feel samey. The characters, the number of characters isn't that large, so you might end up playing the same matchups a lot. And even though there were different maps that ended up being all pretty interesting, you can really, like, when it just boils down to all three players have the same objective of hitting the ball and then putting the ball in the net, there is a really repetitive pattern of gameplay to that. And part of the reason I think the game is more interesting nowadays is, one, the character pool has expanded a bit, which helps, but also the players have developed, the players that have stuck around have developed, that there's actual like kind of complex play styles now and different ways that you could focus on succeeding in the game, that it's less repetitive now. Like for me, every game definitely feels different when I play. And I think if people came back and gave it that, like they kind of interacted with players like all along the ladder, experimenting with these kind of newer styles, they would be able to appreciate that there's different ways to play the game. But yeah, the fact that every character kind of has the same objective compared to like League, for example, we talked about how like assassins die.
Yeah.
If that suits your fancy, you can go play an assassin and one-shot the AD carry and feel good about yourself. But in OS, if you play goalie, your job's to keep the ball out of the net. Then if you play forward, your job's to put the ball in the net. And even if you play Juno or X, who are extremely different, you still have the same job
Of getting in there.
at the end of the day. Yeah.
You can kill their whole
And
team all you
so-
want. You still got to score to win.
Yeah. And like, so if you're playing X, you can score, and if you're playing Juno, you can score. Whereas in League, if you want to play Lulu and you want to shield people, and that's what really excites you, you can't really do that in OS. You can, like there are characters that are based around supportive playstyles. But when you play that supportive playstyle, you still have to hit the ball in the same way that your brawler has to hit the ball.
Right.
And so that I also think adds to that kind of repetitive feel where it doesn't, sometimes it can feel like it doesn't really matter what character you're locking in, especially when you're like lower on the ladder. It like really doesn't matter what character you're locking in. You do exist just to hit the ball, occasionally to hit people, and then put the ball in the net. And so it's difficult to play the game for a lot of hours and feel like that is a new and exciting experience still. Whereas if you're 10,000 hours into League, you might still queue up into someone playing Renata Glass mid lane, and you're like, this is a new matchup. I've never seen this before.
Crazy.
And you have to figure that out on the fly, and you're probably gonna win. There's like a reason people don't do that. But that is still like, you could still run into a new experience like that.
Right. Likelihood of that with OS is much lower, but
Yeah.
a little bit about the casual player base idea. You said it should be that it still has a nice like play style and it's unique enough as a party game. But one of the biggest criticisms I hear from players that I know who quit the game is that it's too fast paced. Like, there's no downtime at all. Like, how would you consider that like
I
a
do
misconception?
agree with that.
Okay.
I do agree with that. I think that is one of the bigger problems of the game is there's just no time to like stop and breathe. So like Mario Party, for example, is, to be honest, like mostly stopping and breathing.
Yeah.
And then occasionally you play a mini game, and you have that one friend who for some reason is like really good at the Mario Party mini games, and then they just farm everyone.
We know him. Don't worry. We know him.
And then they get to sweat out, and then you just get to like watch the number on the dice do funny things, and then you beat the sweat anyways, and then they're like, I hate this stupid game.
Yep. That sounds very realistic.
But OS, there is like no downtime, and this actually also matters on like my end too, like the competitive end. There's very little time to talk like strategic adjustments in the game.
Yeah.
Because you score a goal and there's like 10 to 15 seconds before you have to start playing a really fast-paced game again. And then at the end of a set is when there's a lot of downtime, because there's about a minute before the next set. But during that minute, you have to do the Awakening draft. And that's an incredibly influential part of the game. You need to make sure you don't mess that up.
I feel like in League 2, at least when you get to like an okay level, like, you know, just intermediate level, you kind of like autopilot some like the more menial and like basic tasks, as well as like farming creeps or jungle camps or whatever, so you're able to even talk during that, or an OS, yeah, good luck, man.
If I'm not locked in on that core, man, I'm missing the strike. I'll be honest. If I'm not locked in.
Yeah, the issue is the minion is fighting back because the minion's your opponent.
Yes. Unfortunately. The minion's punching me off the map. Do you think the game can be active again on a bigger scale, or do you think it's just stuck as a niche game now?
I think it won't be active as a casual party game in the same way that Smash Bros. Melee isn't active as a fun party game.
Yeah.
But I do think OS, I've said this forever and ever. I've said it since beta, since like November of beta, that OS could really just be like Smash Bros. Melee. And I really don't think that's super crazy. Because we have an extremely dedicated grassroots competitive scene with minimal involvement from the developers. They did one big launch tournament, right? They did the Pro League Invitational.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, that's it. And then they sponsored the first 2 seasons of Nassel, I think. And that's it. I can't really think of anything else. I know that I think they ran like creator events.
Yeah.
And that was from the developer side of things. But in terms of like the actual like the glorious prestigious tournaments, even back when the Pro League Invitational happened, that was just considered prestigious in the same way that Nassel was considered prestigious already. And Nassel was not developer. That was just run by Bestian Slot. And Nassel Season 1 was a like complete mess. But it was prestigious, but it was also just like a little bit of a mess, and was still considered as prestigious as the Pro League Invitational. And nowadays, Nassel's the only thing that's left that's super prestigious, other than other tournaments that are ran usually by Bestian Slot that are given prestige.
Right.
We did have a tournament sponsored by Africa TV that had some prestige, but I think the TOs for that one were still Bestian Slot. Like they just coordinated with Bestian Slot. Because that's it. Like Bestian Slot is our competitive framework. Like if Saya, who is the head of Bestian Slot, well, actually no, I was gonna say if Saya got in a car accident tomorrow, it would be doomed, but that's not even true. If Saya got in a car accident tomorrow, we would be fine, to be perfectly honest, because someone else would just run the streams, and the framework is slowly but surely getting too big to fail. Like one of our main tournament organizers is on break right now, and we barely noticed their absence. We've noticed it, but all operations are continuing as normal, even though probably the most or second most significant tournament organizer is just not like super involved right now. Stopped asking the question of is next Nassel season the last one?
You knew it was coming.
Started asking the question of when is the next Nassel season, which is a pretty cool change. And like Nassel 5's in just over 2 weeks.
Right.
Nassel 6 is going to start next April probably.
It's affirming some consistency.
And we're just going to keep plugging along.
Yeah. Keep going until it actually does.
As long as Odyssey Interactive keeps up the servers, we will continue to play. Although they have told us that if they were to shut the game down, they would probably give us some sort of access.
There you go.
To set up our own servers. So
that's cool then.
It's really quite difficult for me to imagine this game dying.
Right.
From, like I said, from my perspective, things were looking really doomed not too long ago, like a year ago.
Yeah.
But we are extremely stable. We have a really healthy competitive scene. We have so many leagues. We've grown the amount of leagues we have. We went from like 3 to 4 because we have the top league, and then after the first season of Nassel, we added the second league under it.
Yeah.
And then we've always had something called OSAS, which is the amateur series, which is like a collection of tournaments. They're on like OSAS 8 or 9 right now.
Damn.
So that's been going forever. And then last season, we added a third league. I don't even know what the acronym is.
It's there though.
Yeah, but there's there's the league, there's the Academy League, there's the third league, Max T. They play Saturday, Sunday, Monday every week. And there's 10 teams in the top 2 leagues. I think there's more than that in the third league. And then there's a bunch of teams in OSAS. So there's plenty of players that are interested. There's plenty of players that are finding teams. There's a collegiate scene that's like decently healthy. That's also pretty isolated. I think we have the same round of teams that we had a year ago that are still competing. And that one's even crazier because people graduate. Like, this is my last collegiate season, the one I'm in right now.
Yeah.
Because I graduated from university in June. They added an alumni rule where you can play in one more season. So I'm playing in one more right now. And then after this, I'm done. And then UCLA, I don't know what's going to happen to UCLA after that. But collegiate team might lose UCLA, it might not. But despite the fact that that is happening to colleges all over the country, we still have a similar amount of teams. So it seems like some teams are joining while some are leaving.
Right.
And so for me, when I look at the OS competitive scene and I look at the fact that players are improving every season, like every season has been significantly harder than the last.
Right.
Pretty exciting events. Like the New York LAN was a huge deal, I think. Even more so than the Phoenix LAN and the Philly LAN and the Dallas LAN. I think the New York LAN was really a step in the right direction because it was in the right spot. You know, it was in a huge location. It was in New York City. It doesn't get better than that. The next one, I don't know if you guys know about this, but a California LAN is happening.
Yep.
And that will also hopefully be a big draw for people. And those types of activities, as well as the like diligent work on behalf of Bestie and Slot to, for example, at the New York LAN, they got OS LAN, they got the New York LAN on the front page of Twitch. They coordinated with Twitch to do that.
Yeah.
And so that, in my opinion, that inflated our viewer count. A lot of people that were watching weren't tuned in. But that brought a real level of publicity that the game has not seen pretty much since its launch.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I am saying there's a chance. And the numbers were fluctuating at the right times. Like, the numbers were going up during exciting games. Which I think is like too much of a coincidence for that to be that Twitch happened to get more traffic at that time.
Right.
What do you think about the MOBA stink attached to the game? We'll go with that.
So I do think the MOBA stink, it kind of limits your player base a lot, right? Like, League players aren't going to have a problem with migrating to OS because they're so stinky already.
True.
My bad, bro.
But if I'm a CSGO player who already has a little bit of a mental rivalry with League because of the size of our esports, and I want to be the better esport, I might not try out OS. I think that's super true. I think there are other issues with the game, though. Like I said, the sameness that can really like be problematic. So the issue, I think, was part of it was in their production tests. Their production tests were very full of these super high elo players, and most of those high elo players are still around. And the reason they're still around is because the OS formula works for them, right? And so their production tests were a little bit self-selecting for people that did not have a problem with the game. And so obviously they were the best at sniffing out like super problematic things in the game and
It's like the rose tinted glasses is what you're getting at.
Yeah. Their production tests were full of people that didn't hate the game. And if their production tests were full of people that hated the game, they would be able to direct them more, I think, towards how to make the game less sane. Like, I think Snake Draft, for example, if that had been in on launch, maybe more people would have played. Because, like, while it can feel bad to not be able to play your favorite character, at least you're not playing as your favorite character against your favorite character every game. So there was that, and like that's something that League has, for example. That's always had the like Snake Draft picking
It
make
might
the game
also,
more varied.
like, you know, like, I guess force someone to play a different character, and then they actually might end up liking that character.
Yeah, that's totally true.
Try new things.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. It might force you to try out the roster, and maybe you queue up flex, because if you queue up flex, you've suddenly doubled the permutations, because now you can play goalie or forward. And then the game's interesting, because that's just takes you twice as long to get disinterested. But yeah, I think the sameness was really the bigger problem rather than the MOBA stink. Like, the MOBA stink is an argument for we couldn't get players.
Yeah, get them in the game.
But they did get players in the game. You know, we were the #1 on Twitch for like a day. That was not the issue. The issue was retaining players. And then the other thing was they shouldn't have launched on all platforms. And then tried to push updates to every platform and then make it super cross-platform compatible. They had the idea that would give them a more sustainable player base because they could catch people on every platform playing. But what that ended up happening was it made their responsiveness a lot lower. They had to wait for like approval from Xbox for their patches and things. And they couldn't, do like the post-launch flurry of updates that might have been necessary to keep things interesting. And that was a big criticism that a lot of people have levied at Odyssey for fumbling on launch was, hey, you guys couldn't change the game that often. And there were events, there was like this Demon Drive event that was pretty cool when new characters launched.
Punk Rock EDM thing.
Yeah, and there was like the summer event every year. Well, the first summer event was actually pretty fun. And then the second one was just them kind of reusing the same assets.
Ignore Inky's Splash Zone, of course.
I think Inky's is great for the game, I'll be honest.
It was a very funny map, but oh god.
Maybe not for the maybe not for the competitive scene, but for the casual player base and just for the excitement of the game, it's a very exciting map. I will say that.
That's true.
But they just couldn't do that. Like, if they could do like a new little event every like week or two, that could have shaken things up. And just like their pace of production, I think wasn't enough to keep up with avoiding that sameness feel. The game it couldn't keep players because people played for 2 hours and felt like if they played for another 98, it would feel the same. And so I personally don't think the MOBA stink was super realistic. I think if you have a good enough product, even if you do limit yourself to only letting League players play, the League players will play, and then if you have a good enough game, they're going to tell their other friends to just like play.
Right.
And they'll play with their friends. They don't care about the MOBA stink that way.
It's not like League's a small player base either. They can get enough just off of that.
Yeah, you really can. It turns out that if you have a stink that associates you with the largest esport in the world, you will have a decent player base. And so OS had the players. They had a good player count, but couldn't keep them.
To end off, everything, thank you obviously for taking the time to talk to us and tell us about your experiences and thoughts on OS. But to end it off, what would you say is your favorite memory, aspect, or just story in general about playing Omega Strikers?
So, my favorite memory of playing OS is definitely the Phoenix LAN. It's a kind of crazy story. So, we drove there. Pretty sure we're the only people that drove there. And we're in LA, so we had to drive to Phoenix from LA. Obviously doable, which is why we did it.
It's like a 6-hour drive.
It should be. You're right.
Hi, my name is Megaverse. I was a competitive player for Mega Strikers. I was the first person to hit Omega in the beta of Omega Strikers, where I streamed the game. I was noted for bringing Kai Goalie into the meta. And today I'm here to talk about why I think Omega Strikers died.
Thank you for joining us. It's honestly a pleasure. I know we were friends outside of this, but it's still really nice to come out for the interview, especially since you were literally the first guy. So that's a huge honor as it is.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So what got you into Omega Strikers and why did you stick around?
So for me, I can't remember who it is exactly. It was one of my old friends. I used to play a game called Spellbreak. One of my old Spellbreak friends sent me this link to a beta game. It was like this really sketchy link. They're like, click here, sign up. It was a guy I hadn't talked to in months, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get hacked. But I wish I could remember who it was. But I eventually did it after he convinced me he hadn't gotten hacked. I clicked this really sketchy link, and I got invited to this Steam code of this really, really run-down early access pre-alpha game with so many just polygons all over the place.
Yes.
And we played, I think, that day for like 6 hours. And it was some of the most fun I'd had since Spellbreak has shut down. And I don't know how long that test lasted for. I think it was only a couple of weeks before they stopped and then came back up a bit later. But for those 2 weeks, I think we played like 8 hours a day. That pre-alpha Mega Strikers was some of the most fun I've ever had gaming.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
That's valid as hell. I mean, so you were literally there back when there was no, like, you'd see like a giant triangle flying down from the sky, from Luna, yeah? Like,
Lunar rockets didn't have textures, so they went through like a few iterations of no texture lunar rockets, and there was one that was literally basically invisible. While it was flying, you couldn't tell the difference between it and the ground, and so you would just be like, fuck, did I just get hit by?
that is absolutely insane. Like, I've only seen clips of that. I wasn't that into the game when I was in that stage, of course, but I've seen clips like, how do you play this? Like, you can't even tell what's happening.
And that's what made it kind of fun. You knew that getting in this early into a game, you would grow with the game as much as the game like grew with you, you know?
Right. It's actually like that founder sense.
Yeah, it felt like I had stumbled upon a diamond in the rough.
Mm-hmm.
Had you playtested any games before you playtested Mega Strikers?
Yeah, so I playtested Spellbreak for a bit. That was a couple years prior to that. Before that, I did a bit of Realm Royale testing. What other games can I think of? Blood Hunt. That was a VR. Tested that one.
Missed that
I tested a few games. I like playing indie games a lot. I feel like they have a lot more soul than the AAA games that come out.
Mm-hmm. Definitely valid. How would you sell the game to someone today? I don't know if you still play that much, but do you think there's a world where the game could become active again on a larger scale? Because LANs are pretty popular, right?
So recently I stopped playing competitive Omega Strikers. I've been playing for a long time. It felt like a good time to move on, get a job, you know?
Get that.
But I still play the game casually. I'll play it for 1 or 2 hours a night playing norms. I think if you are looking for a game where you're rewarded for improving, that is Omega Strikers for you. I don't think I've ever played a game where getting better is as satisfying as Omega Strikers. The game completely changes the better you get.
That's valid. That's very valid. I mean, you can notice it just playing through like the low rank ladders, right? Like, the difference between passing and being able to win strike wars and just stuff it in the goal becomes absolutely asinine as you keep going up.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. The game completely changes. It feels a lot really fresh. I get people getting burnt out once they reach those higher levels.
Right.
I felt that too. But I think if you're looking for a new game to get into, it'll take you a while to get to that stage, and I think you'll have a lot of fun playing Mega Strikers. I can definitely see the game coming back if they continue to update it. Even I know XDME, one of the only people still left developing the game. He's doing his best with the small team he has, and even then, every time there's a patch, the player base comes back for a tiny bit.
Okay.
I think if they somehow got more funding, came back to the game, I think easily there'd be a scene again.
So, a little bit of an off tangent. Have you ever played Bite Breakers? The new one they're doing?
So you're talking about game? Have you tested? Yeah, I tested Bite Breakers. And it was, so I'm not the best at platform fighters. It's not something I've played a lot of. I've played a bit of Rivals of Aether, but
okay, yeah.
Outside of that, I'm not very good at any of them. So I can't talk to you about how competitive Byte Breakers can be, but for the casual player base and for a game that early in development, it doesn't scratch the same itch as me, just because it's a platformer, but it was still a lot of fun.
Okay. That's valid. I didn't get I got invited to the beta. I haven't played it yet because people have been telling me it's not that great, but I don't know.
It's really chaotic. It's really chaotic.
It's hard to tell what's happening more so than Omega Strikers before you start.
It definitely is. I think Audi has taken an approach where they're like, if we do too much, because when I picture Omega Strikers and why a reason it might have failed is because there's not enough depth in the game. There's not enough mechanics in the game for people at those lower skills to feel like I can keep improving beyond what I'm currently at. Because you're just like, it's not like League of Legends where you're like, okay, now I can get better at jungle pathing, you know? I can learn how to roam on support. It's not like that. You're just like, what do? I just get better at shooting the ball, passing the ball. It can sound a bit boring, which it's not, but it can sound a bit boring. So I think with Byte Breakers, they're taking the approach where let's shove all of these mechanics in. Let's have too much to know how to do, and then we can cut it down and like ice sculptures, you know, shave it down to that final form.
Almost fine tune it when they realize people actually like and enjoy doing, right? Okay. So there was a video by Auction Esports. They talked about the devs. They talked with the devs rather, and they mentioned that they were over ambitious for their budget, and that the game just had that MOBA stink because of the type of game it was. Do you agree with that? And if not, what do you really think it was? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but
over ambitious for their budget always struck me as a bit odd. Because I'm pretty sure, didn't they have like $20 million
they had a pretty good budget
that game?
From my understanding, yes, they did.
And I'm not shit talking to devs here. Hey, I love your game, but Mega Striker should not have taken $20 million to develop. Let's be clear. You are not. The game's not exactly the hardest to run.
My speculation is the lot that went to the Switch licensing with Nintendo. That's my biggest speculation.
That's fair. I found that out playing coming from Spellbreak and Omega Strikers. Both of those games that are my two most played games, and they both launched on all platforms. Which I think if you're an indie developer, that is a huge mistake. Not only does it cost way more, and if it's a competitive multiplayer game like these two were, you're not going to get updates out fast. You need to run them by every single platform. For an early competitive game, you can't do that. You need fast updates, especially when you go from beta where you have a player base of 2,000 maybe to launching and getting 10, 20 times that for first day. And you need to be able to adjust what the people are figuring out. And you can't do that if you launch on all platforms.
Right.
So I think if they had just launched on PC as their first one, it would have saved them a lot of money. They could have developed the game a lot faster. They would have had to focus on spending money on hiring divisions to talk to Sony, talk to Microsoft, talk to Nintendo.
Like after they got the game rolling already.
Yeah, I think if I could go back in time, I'd run into the office and I'd go, invest in GameStop. Don't launch on all platforms.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I mean,
invest in GameStop.
Literally, when I heard about that, Jamie to the moon, by the way. But when I heard about that, I was kind of surprised when they said they were a mobile game and on Switch. I'm like, that's like unprecedented for an indie game. Yeah, I know. Like,
I don't know if anybody.
Mobile too, man.
It is.
It's so bad.
And it's cross-play between all of them, right? Like you can play with PC players on mobile. And I feel like that's one. The competitive integrity is terrible there because, let's be honest, it's hard for phone games to keep up with PC most often, unless you're like a high-level phone player, right? But it was really surprising to hear that in this interview. I was like, but there's no way. There is no way this is a thing.
It's so hard. I don't know if you've tried to play it. It is so difficult to play this game on mobile.
I believe it, man. It's hard to play on PC.
Yeah. Sorry, I like to go on tangents a lot. I apologize.
No, you're quite alright.
Man. You're good.
Quite alright. So.
Okay.
As
oh, sorry,
go
Jimmy.
ahead, no,
one thing I did want to, I guess, like touch on more was the MOBA stink. Kind of like, you know, thing that they kind of attached to it, the devs attached to in the video. Do you have any like further thoughts on that at all? Like, do you think it was too they marketed like too close to League of Legends, because obviously they had a bunch of League of Legends devs working on ex-League of Legends devs or Riot Games devs on the game. Do you think that it was too attached to that idea with the characters and abilities and all that, or?
I think so. They definitely marketed it as like a MOBA offshoot, but it's really not. I'd understand if they marketed it as like a hero arena, hero shooter, that type of stuff offshoot, but because I don't think necessarily having characters that have abilities directly correlates to MOBAs. You have other game types that do that as well. Then outside of that, outside of them both sharing that one trope, it's not like a MOBA at all, right? You're not going for an economy. Yeah, no, it's not at all. I think that was a mistake, but you're, as you said, they'd come from a League of Legends background, tying themselves like, hey, we are the old league devs, like the nostalgia for the League players. Hey, we are the people who made your favorite version of League. We've made this new MOBA. Come play it. It definitely got those players to come in. But I think misleading those players just drives them out faster, and they won't come back.
I agree with that sentiment because, I mean, literally looking at the first 2 months of release, like, they get 10,000, 20,000 players in, right? And then the next month, boom, gone. Like, almost all of them gone. It was insane to look at in Steam charts.
Yeah, no, it was a hit. Well, what surprised me actually was it was a hit in the TFT scene. Really? Almost every TFT streamer could be caught playing because their TFT queues would be really long once they're in like Grandmaster Challenger. That they would play Omega Striker, like a full Omega Strikers game, while in queue for TFT.
That's kind of smart.
So yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah,
I got to meet those guys.
Hafu and I believe it's Lily Pichu. I don't know if she plays TFT, but I remember Scara at one point too.
Those were the I believe those people, at least at one point in time, I know Hafu stayed. Hafu was the GOAT. She really fostered the competitive community. Most of those people were just sponsored to play the game and play in the content creator tournament.
Right.
Which I don't think they should have done that. I agree that the sponsored streams are good. I don't think they needed to do these sponsored tournaments. I think instead, if they had sponsored just an actual competitive tournament and labeled the game more so towards competitive play, like monthly $5,000 tournaments, you draw in a lot more people, and those people who are currently playing casually would stay to play competitively, and you would grow your own. You would grow your own player base. But having a streamer tournament where they donate to charity is a good cause. Doesn't help your community at all.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, honestly. From what I hear, the sentiment is that people liked the community event with the streamers because they brought in people and gave them like a reason to grind, I guess. But you're absolutely right. It didn't really foster the scene.
No, I know the event you're talking about. You came in, you selected your streamer. If you won, you got like 2 points or something. If you lost, you got like 1 point. And that fantastic. I love that. That brought people in. But then you didn't give them a reason to stay. As soon as that event's over, why should they stay? What did they get out of it? They didn't get anything out of it.
They got a skin or like a banner, right? Like that's it.
Yeah, they got emotes. No, it was just emotes for the first one, I think.
Yeah, sure. It was just emotes for the first one.
Yeah, I think go back in time, foster that competitive environment a bit more. I'm a bit biased though. I was very competitive at that point.
No, that's fine. I mean, if they wanted to keep, I mean, that's the niche that's still living today, right? In LANs, like going and playing competitively, competing in these tournaments that are, I don't feel like actually hosted by Audi. Like these are just fan hosted kind of thing.
Not. Yeah, we still have fan hosted LANs. I just went to New York a few months ago.
Yeah.
That was a blast.
I mean, that's why I was like, if they actually fostered the scene, it probably could be a lot bigger because the fans alone are carrying it as it is. Like, I heard it's like not even like a small event; like it's a couple thousand. If I'm hearing that correctly.
The land was definitely not a couple thousand.
Couple hundred.
It was definitely a couple hundred.
Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know. I can't remember if it was a couple thousand or a couple hundred. It was, it was a number. It was a number.
I wish it was a couple thousand.
That'd be lit. That'd be lit.
That would be lit.
So as this first North American #1 player. How would you describe your experience with the community and the game?
So I was in a really unique position because this game came out, I streamed it, and my stream blew up. I was, I think I peaked an organic stream of 2,000 viewers at one point.
Wow.
Yeah, because I grinded early. I had TTV in my name, and then all these streamers coming in, especially Hafu, who hosted me a lot, rated me. They would raid me off the leaderboard when they end their stream. So I blew up, which changed my view on the community a lot. For me, it kind of turned me against the community members a lot. I went from just enjoying this game to being like, okay, I now need to keep doing better to make this thing work that I'm currently doing, that I want to do. And I spiraled out. And it kind of made me a bit bitter towards the community. Nothing that they did, just me being immature and younger. But for me, the Omega Strikers community, for my position, was really toxic, kind of. It was always, no matter if I beat them, no matter like how many times I would win against somebody, they wouldn't say anything. But anytime I would lose, I would get shit talked constantly because I was in a high position in the community. And so that really took a toll on me. And it made me, even to this day, I don't really like the Omega Strikers community that much. Enjoy the people who run the scene for the comp community. They're nice. They were always nice to me. I enjoy the members of Bad Boys that I hang out with, but I don't talk to people in the community outside of that. I think the Omega Strikers community is one of the worst parts of the game.
You know, I can't say I'm surprised since they're the most League of Legends players. So, you know, it really adds up there. But I didn't really see much of that lens, but it is interesting to hear that they slighted you for being good, which is very strange. I never understood that phenomenon.
That's not just something that happens to me. The Omega Strikers community it's really focused on how you place. If you're a worse player, you're gonna get shit talked by the better players, and if you're a better player, then you need to be able to ignore hate you're gonna get from the lower players. It's just it's really toxic. It's a really toxic community. The casual community, love them. They're really nice people. I enjoy them. The competitive community, very, very toxic.
Let's go for the standings check.
Would you would you say that not only just you, because obviously you're #1 at the time, but also like people kind of like around you, like someone like, you know, Vaughn, for example, would they also get like some heat if they lost to, you know, whoever, and they get in Discord or something?
Yeah, no, that happens all the time to Vaughn, even to this day. If Vaughn loses to your mom Slayer 69, he's gonna get pinged in the Discord. Vaughn is they call him basically the father of the scene right now. He's definitely like the head honcho in the community, and I respect the way he takes it. It made me crumble when I was the head honcho for a couple weeks. He's taking it like a champ. He still gets pinged. I see him getting pinged. And yeah, that broke me. It doesn't break him. Mad respect to Vaughn.
So outside Vaughn, do you interact with a lot of the other high-level players, and do they kind of treat you the same way, or are you guys more like chill with each other?
So I'm chill with most of the, how do I describe this? I'm chill with a lot of the higher ranking players. So you have your top 2 teams really, which were Demons, Raw, and Sad Boys. I love all those guys. Those are my guys. And then I played on a team the last season called Showtime, which features Huss and Xianzu and Barcode. Love those guys. We're all friends outside the game. It's actually Huss's birthday today. Happy birthday, Huss!
Shout out.
So I'm definitely friends with those guys, but not really friends with other people who are high elo. I'm friendly, but I wouldn't call them friends.
Right.
and then there's some high elo players. It's very clicky, you know. It's very clicky.
Makes sense.
But I just don't interact with them at all.
Oh, yeah, that's valid. I was just curious because the way you described it, it seems like there's like a clear divide between like the casual, the competitive, and then the top of the ladder where it all just breaks apart. Okay.
So if you're a casual player, you're kind of ignorant to like anything going on in the competitive scene, and you're gonna enjoy playing the game a lot and getting better. And I think that's like the golden stage, getting better, and then you're gonna want to keep getting better. So you may join like a couple of discords, like learning how to get better, and even then they'll be really nice to you as a person trying to get into comp. And so that's like where it kind of starts dropping off. Once you go higher than that and you start entering like your first tournaments, if you don't provide results, people are going to start looking down on you negatively, really. And then if you're like, how do I describe it? If you're like NASA level, which would be, how do I describe it for like League of Legends terms? It would be like collegiate level, maybe tourneys and stuff like that. Even in solo queue, the people who are at the top will flame you if you make mistakes and stuff. They expect you to do better.
Right.
But I mean, they're still learning. I don't think they should get flamed like that. But it's just the way the scene is. It's really,
it's not very
really bad.
promoting, right? Like it's,
no.
When you step into it first, like okay, it's kind of cool and promoting, but then once you start actually competing, it's like, all right, now it's hostile.
Yeah, it's a very hostile community. I agree with that.
Okay. Well,
do you just one more question, I guess, on this topic. Do you think the devs or the community managers or anyone could have done something to make it not so toxic, or do you think it was just gonna always end up this way?
I mean, these are private discords, right? All these competitive discords are private. Game developers can't do anything about that. If they had taken, like I said, maybe if they had taken the reins of the competitive community at the very start, maybe they could do something like that, like the way that Nintendo has reins over their competitive community. But since they took a step back, shout out Pokemon Unite, Mr. Mind Mains, where you at? But since they took a step back, no, there's nothing they can do. That's all player-sided.
Gotcha.
That's valid. So, we'll end up on a positive note, because community.
Yeah, sorry for being a downer.
No, it's okay.
Good,
no.
The
truth is what matters, right? Like, if that's how it was, it's how it was, man. It's fucked up, but it is what it is.
And I'm sure other people have different views on it, different experiences, but that was my experience playing this, playing on Megaverse.
Which is insane. You see people respecting the first #1 guy more. Whatever. It's all good. It's all good. So, to end it off, what's your favorite memory, aspect, or story about this game? Like, what is that moment that always sticks with you?
My favorite memory? I have a few. For me, one of the best memories will always be winning that first tournament with Griffin and well, I guess it would be our second tournament. It would be with Griffin and Lazy on Laughing Kings. We beat Orbit, who were one of the top teams. We'd beaten Sad Boys as well, but that didn't have. Vaughn was on vacation. I don't count that really.
Okay.
But we had beaten Orbit, and I don't think I've ever screamed as loud in my life in celebration. I love that. And then outside of that, it would be like I'd be at school. I think it was my final year of high school. And I'd get the notification on Discord on my phone, hey, we're having a test today, back in the alpha. And my friend Connor, he would message me, we're gaming tonight, and it would make my day. Those days back then where I'd get off of school and we would spend 7-8 hours going well into the morning playing OS it's nostalgic. It's very nostalgic. I miss those a lot.
The glory days.
Yeah.
If only we can go back.
Yeah, I think those are my best memories in this game.
Well, thank you for your time.
Honestly. Yeah, thank you, seriously.
Gave us time of day. So
yeah, thank you for having me.
Hey, anytime, man.
I apologize for rambling a lot.
No, it's fine.
No, you're good, man. It was interesting to hear this, honestly.
I would rather you talk too much than not enough, right? So.
I'm Vaughn. I also go by Vaughn. There's no secret alternative name here. Just what you see is what you get. I have no idea what kind of introduction Megaverse gave, but I'm just a guy who really likes playing OS. I have a couple notable achievements, some would say, but really I just like to yap, and I have a trillion hours in the game, so I think that's as good of an introduction as any, at least for people at home. Obviously, we've known each other for just about maybe 5 or 6 years now, which is wild. So,
Very wild.
Yeah, that's me. So I'm ready to chit chat, ready to talk.
Well, first off, thank you for joining us. It was kind of like a random thing out of nowhere, so thank you for coming on. You are one of the biggest players in the scene, so regardless of being friends, it still means a lot. So, you want to start by telling us how you really got into Omega Strikers and what really made you stick with the game for as long as you did?
Yeah, I will. I'll keep it brief. Background, obviously, League of Legends player. I got into esports work in general through League of Legends. And one thing that I loved and raved about and begged and pleaded all my friends to play with me was Battle Right on cooldown. Constantly looking for a Battle Right fix. And what I eventually got to through that was I learned about this studio from devs from old Riot heads or Apex or TFT, and they were making this game, and a lot of people that I either knew that enjoyed Battle Right or had enjoyed that smaller 3v3 style were like, this is it. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be great. And so I did everything I could think of in my power to get into their first like open-ish early access alpha as before the beta. And I was able to, because I worked in collegiate esports at the time, I was able to connect with Ryan Rigney, who helped me get my program into that. And then I of course, was going to play too. I was going to do, here you go, guys, like, have fun. Hope it's good. Hell no, I was in there. And hooked me from day one. The game is very different than it is today. Incredibly different. It's just a completely different game. But the core essence of it remains the same, and it still is enough to keep me playing almost 3 years later now for me personally. So that's how I got into it, right around that first collegiate alpha test way back in February 2022 now, I want to say. So it's been a while, so I've enjoyed it.
Was that when it was still polygons? That's when Megaverse said he got in. Like, you're throwing little Juno triangles?
You know, so he's a Canadian, so
Okay.
he got it earlier. So that was
okay.
like the way early days. I came in just a teeny tiny bit after that, so I wasn't in those first ones because Odyssey was based out of Canada. They went to University of Waterloo and some of the nearby colleges, and they were like, hey, we have this game, we want collegiate students to try it, workshop it. And so that's how a lot of word of mouth got around. And so then that first test was almost strictly collegiate aged or adjacently placed people in the community. Right. And so I came in right after that when they opened it up for all of pretty much North America and even Europe in that first one. So not the very first, but the
Pretty
first,
close. Yeah.
if you'd say. Yeah.
You had textures at least.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a little bit more about why you stuck with the game. You mentioned that obviously the game is very different from what it was to what it is now, and the very core of the game is still the same. Regarding that, in terms of them keeping the game like fresh and like a little bit of content and everything, would you say that like even though the game hasn't changed at its very core, that they did a good job surrounding the core and like keeping the game fresh and updated? And that's
well, I mean, I'll be biased because I clearly still play. I think there were a lot of faults that got made as a nascent game studio, but obviously there was something right that they were doing in my eyes, so I stuck with it. And the game is very different, but a lot of the core fundamentals, like I mentioned before, I think that exact phrase, really do remain the same, even if a lot of the engine around it has changed. Like I mentioned that League of Legends, which the three of us have played, it's like League in Season 5 and League in Season 14 are just completely different games. I mean, the map itself is different, everything is different, but if you transported me back to Season 5, SKT needs to watch out because Faker's getting worked to the mid lane. And I think it's the same for OS, where it's like, even though the game looks completely different now, plays completely different now, it's still a successor to what came before it. It's just a different version, more polished, expanded mechanics, but at its base, still the same experience for me, which is one that I've really loved. And maybe, you know, why I love it so much, I honestly don't know if I can put my finger on it. I think for me, it's a bit of a blend of genres that I enjoy, where I love sports, but I don't really like sports games that much. I think they're pretty one-dimensional. I like creativity in my games, which I feel like this game rewards. But I also feel like it has an aspect where I get a lot out of the player versus player, which is ultimately what I mean, call it an addiction, call it whatever, but like I can't stop myself from needing to test myself versus other people. Like I buy all these wonderful single player games that rot my Steam library, but then with the little brain worm is like, you need to queue up another game of Overwatch, even though it's 4 a.m. on a work night. So I think there's a couple reasons why, but obviously I'm still playing today because of some combination of those reasons. So that's probably how I'd answer that question.
Got you. Kind of touched on it a little bit. How would you sell the game to someone today? Like, if you someone wanted to get into it, they had no idea what Mega Strikers was, what would you say is the big pitch?
I think that's actually a really hard question. I've never known how to do this. It's so bad. Well, first, really? I avoid saying the name. I love the name. I love the dev team. The name is so cringe. Sorry. So I'm like, oh, I play, it's called OS, or you just look up OS, and then they're like, what is OS? I'm like, oh, Mega Strikers. So I almost actually never say the name out loud now that I think about it. I almost always just say OS because it's easier to say. And I've never known how to sell people on it because I've almost never tried in a weird way, and when I have, I say it's a quick 3v3, like a team-based sport that's not a real sport, and sometimes that's interesting enough. I think there's kind of like a niche carved out where like a fantasy sport is an interesting concept.
Right.
I think obviously the one that takes a lot of the zeitgeist is Quidditch, but I mean Quidditch sucks as a game.
True.
On print. Oh, I got the snitch.
I win.
So and actually, I mean, Quidditch World Champions just recently came out to, you know, mixed results.
Right.
And so I think it's interesting when you're able to take something that's so ingrained, especially in our culture, about sports and translate it into something like a fresh take. I think is something that everyone can understand. I really have to sit down. It takes a certain type of person for me to convince, hey, you know what? There's these things called minions, and you gotta hit the towers, and then you gotta lane. But then, like, your guy isn't supposed to go up there. He's supposed to go down here. And the reason why is because, and then I just spew nonsense in their face. But if I want to tell someone to try the game, I'm like, okay, I kicked the ball at their net. The little locks explode, and the net opens. We won. We scored the goal. And then there's some other stuff. But I think the care put into the cast of characters, as well as the ease of accessibility of at least understanding the objective and how to win, is usually the easiest draw, because there's been many times at different LANs where people are at the LAN center, they have no idea what's going on, but they'll watch the game on the mainstream, and I see them get sucked in and start talking to a member of the community, or even me, and then I see them, you know, join the Discord. It's such an easy game to really have your breath taken away when it's a high level competition. So
right.
I think those are the main selling points, at least for me.
So I guess you kind of already touched on it a little bit, but very, very, very briefly with the land, like you insinuated towards it. Do you think there's a world that the game could become big again? Like, regardless of dev funding right now, like, do you think the community is strong enough that it could come back with the right events lining up?
What would you consider big?
I mean,
guess
like,
I would ask.
So
that.
like right now it's at like what, a couple hundred lands, probably like 1,000, maybe at most on the Steam base per month kind of deal. Like
it was like 1,500 to 2,000 per month.
So starting like a steady growth. Yeah,
I believe.
The Steam
is
charts?
that real? That's higher than.
No, Steam charts not that high.
I'm a member of a Doom posting community here. I feel like I could recite the Steam numbers like at the back
average
of my
is 389.
Like, that sounds
that
sounds more perfect.
So I think
it's been about 300 to 500 on average for over a year.
Yeah.
Now obviously it doesn't track the requisite console players, and it doesn't really have a fully accurate picture, but it's close enough. I think making it big, I don't think that'll ever happen for this game, and I think that's okay. I think that thankfully in North America, we have an amazing group of tournament organizers that are all volunteer, that have established this huge organized ecosystem that honestly rivals and outclasses any other esport that I've competed in terms of its cohesiveness and its like pipeline to reach this quote unquote pro or tier 1 level, the North American Strikers League, and I think that is the only reason why it even still has those numbers today. I think single-handedly those TOs have organized a competitive space with literally hundreds of active participants each week in North America in different competitions. Without that, our region would not have the players. There are a couple other regions. Europe comes to mind, Japan and South America, where they have passionate players, skilled players, but they don't have that support system that I feel lucky to have, because I didn't help build it. I just helped support it. Right. So I don't think it'll grow much larger. We have lands from time to time. We have one about every 6 to 8 months, which I'm super thankful for. We're about to have the 5th open land. We've had Texas, Philly, Arizona,
New York,
NYC, and then technically it's unannounced officially, but there'll be one in California around the Berkeley area in the spring. So I hope they announce it soon. But it's an open secret. They already announced there would be one. The date is TBD. That's the part. But anyway, no, I don't think so. I think it's sort of comfortably hit its stride. I don't know how long it's gonna last, but I'm gonna try to enjoy it while it does, because I think it's silly to diminish any sort of experience with any video game as lesser than something that is more meaningful to me, like reading a good book or like seeing a great time with like a friend in person. It's like these experiences with the game, even if they're small, in those competitive experiences, like meeting my friends in person, like having those moments, like they mean a lot, and I'm gonna treasure that even in 5 years if it's not happening anymore. So yeah, long story short, no, unfortunately, but like a happy, like, oh well, at least we have what we have.
That's about the journey, right?
That's facts.
Okay. So there was a video, I don't know if you've seen it, by Akshan Esports. They talked to the devs of the game about kind of why they failed. You have seen it. So do you agree with them when they say they were over ambitious with their budget and the game had kind of like a MOBA stink to it? Like, you know what I mean?
So I think I have not seen that video for a while, but I'm gonna try to summarize, and this could be off, but from what I remember, it was divided into almost 2 parts. Where Ryan, I mentioned actually before, Ryan Rigney, he's one of their marketing guys. He talked about how 1, they had branded it like this MOBA fusion, and that 2, they were a new studio, so there's some difficulty with that. Namely, he mentioned budgeting. I'll tackle each one really briefly. I actually do think the MOBA thing missed the mark. While they're not wrong in sort of the camera angle of it, that's really where the similarities ended. And I think I'm seeing this a lot. Well, personally with Deadlock, which is a game that has just been announced. The hype is huge around it, but as soon as I learned it was a MOBA, even though I am someone who's built a literal career off of playing MOBAs, of supporting myself or coaching MOBAs or competing in them, I had no interest in playing Deadlock because I didn't want to commit that time to a MOBA. There's just a certain connotation with MOBA that implies the hours needed for mastery, the types of players you'll run into, the knowledge depth needed. There's a lot there that I immediately will pick up on. And for some people, even the genre as a whole, you're like, no, which I totally get, especially as I get older. There's only so many hours in the day that I want to commit to learning, especially if it's something new.
Right.
So I think that was one. And I think that video kind of was talking about potentially why OS failed. The other was the budget. And again, I remember because all this stuff was public, they raised about I want to say it was like 20 million USD for their first title. This is no secret. You can look up Odyssey Interactive fundraising on Google, and you can see their like angel investor reports and stuff. There was things written about it because it was so exciting. I've always had like a slightly different, my own personal take, which is obviously, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But my thing is this, where you know, in a lot of their interviews or a lot when they talk about, you know, they're there to make a good game. You know, they started out in, you know, the basement of Odyssey. I want to say it's Maple's basement. Sorry, I don't know his actual name, but I think that's Maple, who, if you're a TFT player, you know who that is, former head of TFT. And so they started in Maple's like basement, and they're like, we're here to make a good game. It's not about making a, like, you know, it's not about making the most money, blah, blah, blah. And that is totally 100% legit. Not what I'm getting at here. The point I'm getting at here is I think a lot of hype and money came into the group because they were all from such talented, accredited, acclaimed publishers, titles, worked on some great projects, some literal not even genre defining, but like video game defining stuff. Like TFT essentially revolutionized what we now know as auto battlers. So the point I'm getting at here is when you are a part of such a large system, it's very easy to figure out what your job is. Like if I'm hired at Riot, they're going to be like, okay, you are this person, you have this job. Do you have a question? Go to Janet in this department. She will tell you what to do. Do you need help with something? Go to Dave in this, you know, in this office space, and he has done these kind of projects before. He can kind of run you down on like, oh, this is how we like to do it here. This is our style. This is, you know, our approach. There's so many things that's already established in like a company that exists. So I think it's really hard to make up this like startup. And then also you realize, especially after getting to know some of these devs, because they're such a small and open studio, they're really kind to their player base. So they're pretty honest with you, and they talk with you. It seems like a lot of times it's like, oh, you know, there's only like 20 of us in the whole studio at any given time. That's not an exact number, but you know, when there's only so many people, all of a sudden you don't have, you know, person A, B, C, and D who have worked there for 5-10 years above you that can help. All of a sudden it's like just you, and then it's like, oh, we need someone to do this. Oh, that's me. Oh, am I even sure how I want to do it? What's our process? We don't have one yet in place. That's not to say anyone's inept. If anything, these people are some of the best in the industry at their jobs, and obviously they did a great job, and I hope they continue to find success. But I think what I've always felt like, as I got to be part of that alpha testing group, that beta testing group, and so I got to have a bit more dialogue with the devs, more so than an average player, is sometimes it really felt like there's just so much that goes on into being a business other than just making games. And part of that, I think, it feels like they bit off more than they could chew because they were used to the quantity of work they could accomplish in an ecosystem that had already been established. So when they were small, all of a sudden it takes way more hours to get something done. You just have less hands. You got more stuff you got to do. You got more stuff you have to establish. There's no prior, you know, base you can build off of. It's all ground up. So that's what I always feel like, which could be complete BS. But I don't know. I feel like there's some validity.
Yeah.
I think you can see that even when people our age get hired for a new job. I'm just like, I go to someone who's been there a couple years. Hey, I heard there's meetings after, like on Thursdays at 3. Like, what is that real? Like, should I be there? Like, and they know the answer. So I think that's a big one for me. I can't speak on how much money it costs. Obviously, I know nothing about that, and I can't really speak on much else. But I think the MOBA thing definitely steered away some players. I think the MOBA thing, I think maybe the art style they chose, there's a couple of different things. I think the resources they poured into trying to make it work on mobile, I think took a lot away from the time. I remember how long it took to get patches out, like, and they would get patch dates at different times, and it was just, it was a bit of a mess. So I think it was a big learning experience. So
that was something
those are my thoughts.
We touched on Megaverse, like the whole Switch and mobile thing. That maybe was a little too much because it's already hard enough to balance a game and get the patches working for PC alone, let alone consoles and mobile. So that does add up. I gotta say though, I am intrigued there's only like 20 people in that studio. Working without the infrastructure makes it much more difficult.
Oh, okay. It's not like
I
exactly
know it's not actually
20.
yes, but
let's be clear.
still,
But it's
still a
very
small studio. Yeah, like,
it's very, very small. Like it's not that many, obviously, because then you need to, there's only so much space in your new studio, or like you only have so many people you can hire for livable, fair wages when you need to make your first game. So
it sounds like the inverse of Turtle Rock situation, if you're familiar with them. Like when they left Valve and went to make Evolve, they still had like a big studio with a lot of budgeting and name behind them. They just flopped it because they didn't put any effort into it and saw it to the label. But this studio with all this reputation, like they wanted to do it right, but they just didn't have the resources to do it. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think that literally. I think that for me, it's a pretty big one. Like I remember so many times where players would be like, "Oh, can we make this change or this change?" And they're like, "Yeah, it will just take a while because we only have like so many people that can work on that, and it's a game studio. There's more than one game being worked on, so they're like, well, they have other stuff they have to take care of first, and then they can do that, and then there's some bugs in the game that went unsolved for months, and that's just how it is. So
then you could do, yeah.
I would be interested in an alternate reality if this game somehow kept its core identity with a bigger studio, which obviously it doesn't translate one-to-one, but I would love to just live in a world where like this was the 5th game from them, where they just have this huge successful studio and they have all this stuff they can pour into it, and then I don't know, maybe it doesn't work then,
right?
Yeah, it's interesting to think about for sure, but I know that they as a studio tried their heart out, and I always think they should be proud of what they accomplished. I would say by a game's first a studio's first game, I would consider OS a success. 1,000%.
I would agree. It's a very competent game. It's fun. It had a great community that supported it. Just not everything takes off as a hit like that, right? It's just not realistic.
Speaking of Vaughn, you mentioned a couple things like the art style, and obviously we talked about the MOBA stink, but if you did have to pick one singular thing, what would you pick as like the biggest reason that OS never, like, I guess, took off or stayed as a mainstay for people?
I think the best way to encapsulate it is essentially what was the main message that a lot of them pushed, which they put a lot of time into data. They tried to really parse through their data on player retention, and literally you two are the prime examples of this, where people would pick it up and be like, this is fun, play it for a while, and then stop. And it's not like there was ever like they got to the point where like, oh, I hated it. It's for live service games, especially for studios small, you need people to keep playing it and eventually make it their quote unquote main game. Like I would say this is my main game, even though I still play, League of Legends from time to time, Overwatch from time to time. Those games are in that space where it's like, oh, I'll play for a couple weeks at a time. Then if I don't for a while, I don't care, or I'll play like super casually. And those games are so large that doesn't matter. But for OS, that matters. So they've kind of failed in some way of the formula. They really tried. They switched the game up entirely after beta because that was their goal. They wanted to make it a main game for people, and people just didn't see it that way for whatever reason. Many different ones.
Yeah.
Some people want something different, and it just didn't hit that. Whatever. There's no real way to identify. It's like a flash in the pan. If you really get a new main game, there's an interesting thing going on. Actually, by the guy Brian Rigney, I follow him on Twitter. He writes articles about this kind of stuff. He posted about how literally like the top like 30 games are all games made like over 10 years ago, except for like 2. It was like maybe Deadlock now, and then there's a like Fortnite, and then like Apex Legends, and like that's like there's like or I might be forgetting, but there's so many games that capture this core audience and they never let go. And so it's really hard to get into the space because you're competing against everyone against you still with live service, as opposed to if you just release like God of War. Like everyone pays their money up front. It doesn't matter if your player charts go to 0.
Already paid.
You made the money, you released the product, and you're focused on your next task. So that's got to be my main one, which is at the end of the day, they failed the #1 goal of live service, which is this is your main game now. For whatever reason that might be. I don't really think there's a way to put a finger on it.
Yeah, it's a really tall
I guess
order.
that's my 2 cents. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, moving on to a different topic. you're Vaughn, obviously, one of the most recognizable names in the whole community of OS. How would you say that the game and obviously, you know, the eventual, I guess, kind of fall off of the player base affected you in any way?
So I'll answer the second part first, which is how it affected me. I think the community that surrounds this game is a bit on the younger side. Most people are around 18 to 22. I am not. I'm 27. Now that doesn't mean I can't, you know, kill and rage just like anyone else in a bad game. Like I'll yap just as loudly as someone 5 years younger than me. But I think what happened is a lot of people feel emotionally invested in things that they care about. And when the game did not succeed to the levels that a lot of people wanted, they feel personally like insulted, disappointed. Especially, I remember going into the beta, which at the time that was essentially their intended game. Like the beta is very different than what is existing now, but that was the game itself. Like if that had succeeded, they would not have changed it. That was their original goal. I remember very much going into beta, and a lot of the other top players at the time. I was a top player at the time. And a lot of other top players were like forming teams, and there was a lot of discussion about like, oh, what happens if, like, you know, how cool would it be if we got signed by C9 or like, you know, this took off, because there was a lot of money that Odyssey was investing in the competitive space. There was like a $15,000 collegiate tournament they hosted. It had like hundreds of teams, and there was definite attention on it. They wanted to try to get that space, because if you even have a smaller esport, it really sustains your live service game. And so a lot of people at those top levels were like, a lot of emotionally was riding on it. You already talked to Megaverse. He and then another one of my friends, Jared, or LolJSS in the game, you know, they were averaging over 500 viewers on Twitch every day. And all of a sudden, people see the attention for, or not the attention, the opportunity for, you know, revenue streams from the game, building an online community of their own for the game. I think there's a lot of excitement that all of a sudden, like, oh, maybe this is something that like can sustain me as a person, and who doesn't want to, you know, make a living off of video games as someone who's not just playing them or analyzing them or talking about them. That's really cool. And I think a lot of those people felt personally like, oh, how dare they, like, I had so much riding on this. Which was always funny to me, because it's like, who has more riding on it than the devs, like the studio, like that's their livelihood. So for me, I remember when it was like, I really felt like, oh, this isn't going to be the big thing that I wanted, because again, that alternate reality, obviously I don't have the ego to say to this day I would still be a top player. If the scene is bigger, there's more players, and obviously someone in Korea would have replaced me by now. But who's to, I mean, I can't lie and say that I didn't fantasize about being like, you know, if this game turned into a big name, like I would realistically probably be able to support myself through like Twitch streaming it, regardless of my competitive success. So I think for me, I was disappointed because it meant that it put. The only thing about it that makes me truly sad is that it puts a time limit on the experiences I'm having right now. I try to look past the like, oh, I was so great at this game and it like wasn't great, so I'm like regarded as like the goat of like a dying game. Like the point I'm trying to make is, and I'll tie back into the first one, which is like, how do I feel about the game and all that stuff, where I think something that I've enjoyed as I've gotten older, and I'm still super young, obviously, but where I work, I'm the youngest. And so what everyone's really just looking for is ways to fill their time where it gives them fulfillment and satisfaction, a high level of mastery, if you will. And there's nothing more satisfying to me as a person than truly expressing myself through a creative medium in competition. That is just such as a characteristic for me. It's a way for me to show who I am, to myself and to other people. It shows my hard work, it shows my dedication, it shows what I bring to a table versus other people, and it's a bonus that I get to do it in a team environment. I've teamed with my forward teammate Ali, or his name is Bells. We entered our first tournament now. Our first one was first week in November 2022, and my goalie Caleb, we started teaming together in the first weeklies right around launch, around like May 2023ish. We've been the longest standing team in the game's history, and we still play at a top level. And I think that's really important. I think that's something that people need, or not need to realize, but I think it's something that people realize now about what really drives you to do something, like as a person. And I think at the end of the day, it's just what fulfills you. And so even though this is like a really small niche game that has a really small player base, like there's nothing that defines me or sets limits on me of like, what do I do in my day that really helps me feel like I'm finding my place. And I'm not to say that this game is like saving my life, or if like someone, like if I couldn't play the game tomorrow, my life would go on just fine. But it's provided me that outlet of expression, of creativity, of competition, that really drives, you know, what I feel it means to be a person. And so that could be from anything. You know, you could be a competitive puzzler. You could be, you know, you could enter spelling bees. You could do whatever, creative writing.
Right.
I mean, sports.
This is just your medium.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll have another medium another time. But right now, this is the one that I'm doing, that I'm a huge part of the community for, and I really like it. And so whether or not the game failed, my experience has always remained almost a relative amount of the same, thanks to the work of especially our TOs. So yeah, that's what I got there. I've already accepted what it is. I appreciate what we have, and just the fact that I've made friends through it that are going to last me longer than the game's lifespan is good enough for me, I think. So.
And how lit would it be if the game started growing again, though?
I mean, but how lit
would it be? How lit would it be?
And I would be raking in dough with, well, not anymore, but at the time I was like, fellas, we would be on TSM, like we're the top dogs. Like, let's be clear.
Let's go.
Not they shall be not. But all I was saying is, maybe the game took off. You know, I call my boy Manga from Twitch Rivals and be like, Manga, you don't remember me, but I remember you because you're the GOAT. You gotta talk to Jack. Bump up my salary.
Let's get it rolling. You know what I'm saying?
It would be pretty sick. I definitely would have a different day-to-day life, I think, if that game took off. I definitely would be looking at things a little differently. But you know, I'm happy for what it's given me. For any general video game, there's very few things that have given me the opportunities that it has. So
we'll end it off on a positive note, of course. Do you have a favorite memory, story, or something like that about this game? Like something that really always stuck with you that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot. Obviously, getting to meet so many people through the game, like I have so many friends through that game now that I would have never run into normally, and I'll have even after the game we stopped competing, which I value a lot. But in terms of actual like memory or stories, there's like one or two. On Liquipedia, they classify the tournaments in tiering systems, which obviously the top one is S tier. And probably one of my favorites is the very first S tier of the game was a very big LAN at CECC in Arlington, Texas, which is at this huge arena. And this was actually, so it was me and Bells, or Ali, or Bells, however you know him. And we were actually playing against who would be our goalie, Caleb, or Jordi, but he wasn't our goalie yet. He was regarded as the strongest goalie. He was the best goalie in North America, but we weren't teaming with him yet because he had committed to playing with two other players who I'm also friends with for the first like pro season. And so this LAN happened maybe a week or two after launch. And so we teamed up with someone called Barcode or Sean for the event. So we were actually not the favorites. So it was really nice to not be first. There's a lot of pressure being first seeded for an S tier. And the moment we won, I vividly remember how I felt. and like I can picture like my perspective, like I can replay in my head after the final goal went in, that first big chip. That one meant a lot, especially for myself and for Bells, because we had I haven't even won something. It's funny because we were already regarded as such a strong forward pair, but we had been entering a lot of stuff. I think we definitely won a couple things, but we hadn't won any of like the big ones yet. There was like one big one in beta at the end that we weren't able to win, but we were projected to win, and so that was a big weight off our shoulders because I had the title like the second place bandit at the time, and so it felt so good to like actually get the win. That's definitely the one that comes to mind. Probably almost any of the S tier championships, winning those, they all have like kind of a special place. It's either that one or the second season of North American Strikers League where Bells, myself, and then Caleb, who is now on our team, we have like kind of a Boston Lakers rivalry with a team called Demons Raw, and we beat them in grand finals. That one too. I think just the sheer moment where all the work pays off with people that you've spent hundreds of hours grinding with, and you care about their success with you. It's euphoric, and to know that in that moment you're objectively, by any standard, the best team in your region, arguably the world, is something that there's very few things that I've ever done that I could say like I'm the best in the world at. And obviously I don't want to be, have some hubris and say that like immediately, oh, we won the North American Championship, so we're better than EU, we're better than Japan,
right,
and South America. But the point is, like, I have a claim to say that I am.
Absolutely.
Like, I feel like I can. And so, we've never, it's not to say we've always been, if there was always a powering going on, we would always be number one at any given point. But it is a lot of work to, I would say, consistently since launch for over a year and a half now, we've been considered the best team. Not any, maybe some stretches it's been Demons Raw, some stretches it's been us. It's always been us or them, but it is something to be really proud of when you pour thousands of hours into something and you're still able to compete and win. And so chasing those highs are a lot. Any of our S tier championships, I would say, are probably my favorite ones, because it just sort of it makes all the time you spend playing the game in a not fun way. I mean, it pays off. I'm sure anyone can relate to, on any scale, the feeling of like, oh my god, all my work just paid off there, times like a million. So I think that's got to be it. I think those two specifically, those two championships, it really seals the deal. So those are the ones.
Yeah. You got anything else you want to ask, Dev? Are you good?
I just want to say, I remember around the time of that championship, it was like a little bit after it, and you were like, you came with Discord and you were talking to us about it, and I was like so like enamored and inspired for the way that you were talking about it. I remember I go, yo, Vaughn, you know what I think I'm gonna do? I think I'm gonna make, and then you're like, yeah, YouTube documentary on the LAN. You and like 500 others. So,
yes. Yeah, I do remember that because I knew you weren't going to do it. I knew you weren't going to do it because everyone, they were like, this is so cool. This was an awesome LAN, because there's a really cool story, because I remember telling you specifically about like why that was so interesting with our like Kai pick, like our off meta stuff. Yeah. Someone actually did make it. There's like actually a pretty solid one that got made.
At least someone did it.
I haven't watched it.
Yeah, by a guy called Nerds Corner. I'll show you. I'll link it to you guys after the video. But it is really cool because he gets into a little bit about like the run and all that stuff. So it was pretty solid. So, but yeah, no, I actually remember that story. That's what I had forgotten about that. That's really funny. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Bells and I walked in there. We're so cooked. Like, we're just gonna try our best, just throw shit at the wall. Hope it sticks. We were at the time we were picking some stuff that was, we were ready to pick some stuff that was just considered absolute dog meat. So it all worked out. But I do remember that. That's funny you brought that up, Rex. That's funny.
Yeah, but other than that, yeah, nothing else.
Okay.
But, well, thank you, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Thank you for sitting down with us. Appreciate the time. As always, you're awesome to talk to. Funny. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Charming. You know?
Charming.
Keep going. Keep going.
Intelligent. You already. Well, I'm just repeating what you told me before
Yes,
the
of
interview.
course.
Of course.
Hey, don't now. Like these are your words.
Yes.
I'm
like,
just
because you're on
I'm
camera,
just
don't get shy,
conveying
man.
them.
Don't get shy.
Yeah, talented, good at carrying me.
Just exceptional at what he does, you know?
Gaps
me in every game we play, but I still love him for it.
Yep.
Hey, I mean, you haven't beat me in Pokemon, it's all I gotta say, but you know, we'll get there. I guess.
Wait,
We'll
hold
get
on.
there.
Okay, real quick. We say we've known each other for like 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Name one single league that we've played in any competitive game that you outplaced me in.
None.
In Pokemon?
I guess two
Standing-
seasons? No. Oh, he's standing.
check?
Yeah.
No?
Standings check.
Never?
Standings check.
Okay. League of Legends?
Yeah. Why is this guy on like this?
Hey, we can cut this part. We can cut this part.
After getting to chat with each of them extensively, we're kind of getting the impression that Omega Strikers had his chance in the light. They just happened to fall short, and it's hard to solely blame anything. Perhaps a blend of the devs' overambitious platform approach, the MOBA stink that plagued it, or even the lack of variety and staying power when the game came out, foreshadowed the writing on the wall. Despite this though, a pretty amazing and self-sustaining competitive scene prospers underneath. And even still, some players are optimistic that maybe it can make a second run of greatness. And as hopeful as we are, it's really unlikely to ever get the full attention from Odyssey Studios again. Even still, Omega Strikers is definitely worth a try today, as it's honestly in one of its best states it's ever seen in the history of the game. Thanks for watching.